Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being with us today. Today we have a special program because people that listen to our show are going to say, you have a petroleum engineer, a agricultural engineer, somebody dealing with oil on your show. To which I say, yes, we must listen to everybody. Greg Kozera is Director of Marketing for Shale Crescent USA, a regional nonprofit research and economic development organization. He is a professional engineer and an environmentalist with more than 35 years of experience in the natural gas and oil industry. Kozera is the author of the books Just the Fracks, ma'am. When I heard that name, you know what I said. And Learned Leadership, a boys' high school soccer coach whose teams have won 16 regional and 5 state championships. This guy is an engineer. He's even engineering wins on the field. He understands the importance of teamwork and leadership. Greg, welcome to Politics Done Right. How are you doing today?
I'm excellent. How about you?
I am doing great, Greg. Let me tell you, when they asked me to talk to you, my first thing is like, don't you guys listen to my show? Why do are you going to really bring Greg to my show? To which then I said, yeah, you must listen to my show, because what I like to do is I like to hear all sides of a story. I like to hear everything. So first of all, the original context of the conversation is bringing manufacturing back to the United States, making sure that we build things. I also noticed that you are lead a group, a nonprofit that centralizes in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and what state am I missing?
Ohio.
And Ohio. And these are states that are in dire straits right now. Manufacturing has left them. Manufacturing never was a part of West Virginia. West Virginia was always a forgotten state. First of all, tell me what's your goal?
Our goal is really simple. We want to bring, as a nonprofit, non-government, our role is to bring jobs, not just jobs, but high-wage, career-oriented jobs back to this region, the Rust Belt. And, what a lot of people don't realize is petrochemicals. The first ethane cracker was 10 miles from where I sit today. I live outside of Charleston, West Virginia. So the whole chemical valley during the Cold War, we were on Russia's target list but what happened when our energy went away, when OPEC suddenly in the 70s became the world's oil supplier, we saw the Gulf Coast, where you're located, begin to grow. And suddenly overseas labor was cheap. So we lost our manufacturing job. All my relatives, I grew up in Pittsburgh, and our family was in steel. Well, all of a sudden, my whole family's unemployed because the steel mills went away. So we have this unique opportunity now because we have abundant energy. As a matter of fact, you may not know, your listeners may not know, and viewers, that region, Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, if it was a country, would be the number 3 natural gas producer in the entire world. Number 3, the only places that produce more natural gas than Shale Crescent, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania is. Number 1 is the rest of the U.S. without us. The Gulf Coast, offshore, Texas, Oklahoma, Alaska. Number 1. Number 2, Russia. Number 3, us. Can you imagine that? That little part of the United States produces twice as much natural gas as the entire nation of China. So that energy advantage, and to your point, it's not energy for burning stuff. What most people don't grasp is to make this shirt, the computers, everything we got, takes molecules, petrochemicals, and there's nothing wrong with renewables. But the only thing they make is electricity. They can't make a car. You got to have those molecules to do that. So we got the energy, we've got the workforce because we've been an old manufacturing area, and we have the location because 70% of the people that make things out of polyethylene, polypropylene are in our region. So right today, those polyethylene pellets are being made on the Gulf Coast and they're being shipped up to my part of the world. Can you imagine what that does for efficiency? Can you imagine what that does for carbon footprint? So we have this unique opportunity. I think what happened during the pandemic, I think we all got hit with the realization that we didn't realize how much stuff we were getting from overseas. And can you imagine things like PPE, face masks, gowns, even ventilators, medical equipment? We were depending on places like China for that. And Well, I tell you what, when we're depending on other nations to protect our people, and even 80% of our prescription drugs aren't made here, it's time to bring it back. And we can talk about it more. We have the advantage. We can make it cheaper and more efficiently here in this country than anybody in the world.
Now, when it comes to energy, you point out that one of the first steps we could take to reduce carbon footprint is to just start manufacturing here, because the amount that we spend, or rather the amount that we burn on transport, the amount that we burn to create all this, the chaos within the market by not building things here, have an actual footprint, and that could be a start. Did I understand that right from your writings?
Absolutely, because if you think about what's going on today, China, who's obviously that's China and Asia, particularly China. I mean, you look around your office and your house, you'll find something, probably a lot of stuff made in China. China doesn't have their energy. I already talked about that. They're getting most of their feedstock, their energy from OPEC. A lot of it's coming from Iran or from Russia via pipeline. So that's a carbon footprint to move those molecules from the Middle East to, let's just say, Beijing. Then they make a product, and it might be, who knows, my shirt or a computer or whatever. And then where's it come? They got to ship it halfway around the world to the United States. That's a huge carbon footprint. Now, today, what the opportunity that we have in this country is, in my region, and even if you look at the Gulf Coast, we have the energy right here in this country. We have more energy. We're the leading oil and gas producer in the world. So we got the energy, we got the feedstock. And in our region, the feedstock and energy is literally under the plants. Can you imagine? It's right there. So that's almost zero carbon footprint, very minimal. And then when you make that product, you're making it, like, for instance, the pellets, when Shell and PT Tier 2 cracker is going to be built in the region. Those pellets are being made from American Energy under the plant. They're being trucked to converters, people that make stuff right within a few hundred miles of those plants. And then where's that stuff go? It's going to Atlanta, Detroit, Chicago, New York City, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Baltimore, right there in the region. So can you imagine how small that carbon footprint is compared to what China's doing? And the beauty of it is we're creating these high wage jobs. And I'm also an adjunct professor at a community college. My students, Alberto, start at 60 grand a year. That's huge for someone right out of school. They're making minimum wage now, and they're getting 60 grand a year. And what I love about it, I said, gentlemen, ladies, what are you going to buy with that stuff? What do you think the first thing they want to buy is?
No, right.
What's the first thing you think they want to buy?
They're going to buy a car. They're going to buy a home. They're going to buy a whole lot of stuff.
You nailed it. Except we're in West Virginia, so it's not a car. It's a pickup truck.
What is it? What is it?
It's a pickup truck.
Oh, a pickup. Yeah, you're in West Virginia. Okay. Yeah.
You're right. They're gonna buy stuff. Now the third one, you nailed it. Car, or actually pickup truck, house. And then since we're in West Virginia, they're gonna buy West Virginia WVU Mountaineer football season tickets.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
See what that does to the local economy. So now you're not just talking about these young people with $60 or $70 or $80,000 a year jobs. What are they doing? They're the people that sell that pickup truck, the people who make that pickup truck, the people who make that TV, the flower shop on Main Street, because now they can buy flowers for their spouse on Valentine's Day, or maybe just Friday, just for the heck of it. That's how we grow our economy and create those manufacturing jobs, create 4 other spin-off jobs of some sort. And in
actually,
some cases, they're going to
more
build a
than that.
house.
Probably more than that when you take a look at the local economy, the bread maker who's selling more bread, so all of that goes.
And the restaurants, yeah. So can you see where that's how? And today, when we buy that stuff from China, if I buy this pen from China and my masks and all the PPE I'm getting, who gets those jobs? They do. And we're not even getting any tax benefits of it. So all these young people are paying taxes. They're paying state taxes, local taxes, federal taxes. What a way to grow our economy and really create those things. And what's fascinating, this does something else that's really powerful. I was on radio with a lady in Chicago, and we probably don't have the same political persuasion. That's okay. But when it comes to jobs and bringing high wage jobs back, we're absolutely on the same page. And she asked me this question. She says, Greg, we've got all these vacant buildings in Chicago. What can we do? How can we bring manufacturing back to Chicago? Because if we can put jobs into those vacant buildings, we can give our young people hope. And if we give our young people hope, we can end the gun violence in this city, because now they have something to live for. They have a reason to stay off drugs, to stay out of a gang. We're giving them hope. And that's the stuff. And in my region, a big problem, we still have an opioid problem. My students don't have an opioid problem because they know in May, if they stay drug free and graduate, they got that $60,000 a year job waiting for them. That's how we create hope, and that's how we begin to change really people's lives in a very positive way. So I'm really pumped up about that kind of stuff.
Let me tell you, Greg, you need to run for something, but I want to now challenge you in a particular area, and let's see how we get there. We need that impetus. We need that passion for jobs into something that is sustainable. So I have a question for you. I meet you halfway. What I mean by that is, as an engineer, both of us are engineers, so we can speak at a particular level. I understand that, gradients. Bad things happen at large gradients. We know that. Whenever there are big changes, that's when bad things happen. So as a progressive activist who really wants to get things done, I realize that we have to have on-ramps for changes. But the longer that we wait for on-ramps to changes, the steeper that on-ramp has to be. And that is where somebody like yourself comes in. You're an oil man. Let's put it bluntly. You have everything that you've just said is in the power of using oil to create great wages for the people that you are likely to represent, which is a damn good thing. You want those people employed. My question to you, however, is this. Knowing what we know about the environment, if you believe the science of what's going on in the environment right now, wouldn't it be apropos to make sure that as we build your Crescent region, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, that you make it transitional for these people, that yes, you're sitting on a flotilla of gas that can be used as a catalyst right now for building other things other than burning? Wouldn't it behoove you to create policies in that region that make them sustainable, and not that when some crash comes with, well, we really have to do something about energy now, that they are not in the same place again that all these Rust Belt places are in because some fast change occur and their business model was not sustainable?
That's I love that question. And that's a great question. I think I don't know. I sense you're younger than I am. So do you remember the Bionic Man?
No, I'm probably older than you are, but it's okay.
But do you remember the Bionic Man, Steve Austin?
Of course, I remember that. It's the $6 million man. It's what
That's it.
Right.
Well, I remember how that show started. So do you. Is we can rebuild him. We can make it better.
Right.
And I have a vision, and it's funny, to your point, is it's taken a little while for people, even within our organization, Shell Crescent, because we're a nonprofit, but we're founded by community and business leaders. And our whole role is jobs. And if we can do it with renewables or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Let me interrupt you a second, because I went to your Crescent website, right? And your Crescent website, maybe I didn't look far enough. I didn't see a transitional kind of a thing that says we are going to make sure that. I know you're a nonprofit and you're doing damn good work. That's not what I'm hitting at all. What I'm trying to figure out is, in the process of building up that region, you're going to have a transition to say we're doing, because we get into too many ideological battles that we shouldn't be into. Okay, you and I want the same thing for our kids, etc. So we should find the correct way to get us to a sustainable planet
Okay.
that's not going to do the wrong thing. And
Absolutely.
and when you made that comment about we can start by reducing transportation and we get two bangs, we get more jobs here and we reduce a carbon print. I buy that.
There's a third bang out of that that's
Go ahead.
huge. And this is what nobody, and here's the part that really concerns me, because this whole, if the people that talk about climate change are right, and if we've got a limited window, and you and I both as engineers grasp that you got to do something. I mean, the time for talk, I've waited 30 years. I'm done with talk. It's time to act. And what nobody has come up with yet is, what do we do about China? Our CO2 levels in this country have dropped. Just last year, they went down 2%, but we're down 14%. So we're lower in CO2. China is, we're not talking about lowering theirs. They're still increasing. Now, doggone it, I'm smart enough, and you're both smart enough as engineers to know that if we're going to solve the global problem, we can't do it if China's still doing this.
True.
And here's how we fix that. And China's not going to come willingly, I don't think. I mean, matter of fact, they're still open. I mean, it's boggling my mind. They're still opening new coal plants over there. So everything we do is being undone. Here's how we fix that. We start bringing that industry back from China. We start to force their hands. And that's how we do that. Ford wants to be carbon neutral. If you were the CEO of Ford, I'd look you in the eye right now and I'd say, here's how you fix that. Shut that plant down in Beijing and bring it to Houston, bring it to Parkersburg, West Virginia, or Cambridge, Ohio, or Pittsburgh, PA. That's how you do it. And instead of bringing that oil to Beijing and then sending those car parts here, you bring that plant here, or begin to transition, begin to make less. If you're going to ship it to the United States, make that product here. Make what you want to in Beijing and ship it to China and India. That's how we start. I have not heard anything that's got anything at all to do with how do you deal with China. Here's one way we fix China. We start sending them our natural gas so they can maybe not build any more coal plants. I don't know, but we got to deal with that. And that's not on anybody's radar screen. And you and I both know, if we got a 401k, the part of my 401k that may be growing, if it's being undone by the rest of it that's losing money, I got to change that. And if we don't change China, we're in deep.
I think this has to be something that it's not only China, it's also India, it's all the developing countries. Okay,
exactly.
And I want to make a moral thing here, and that is, we as the United States, we are, as the wealthiest country in the world, we did that by throwing a whole lot of carbon into the air. That's what we did. And so did the UK, etc. So we have to pay a bigger cost, in my humble opinion, when it comes to not forcing, but negotiating with others to stop throwing carbon into the air, because they could say, well, you threw X amount of carbon in the air over the years to become rich. We may need to do the same. And we have to find some moral answer to that reality of enriching one's country. So that is something to be negotiated. But you're absolutely right that if we are the only ones cutting, just one of the reasons for regulations is that you want everybody to be playing on the same field, on an even field. In other words, if we don't have regulations in certain places, you could get a competitive advantage by not being a good steward, and I get a competitive disadvantage by being a good steward. So we have to have a level playing field in order to execute those things. It can't be a winner take all or anything like that, which is what
I think you're talking about. What I love about that is that's my coach coming out now, because to me, doesn't matter who on our team, doesn't matter who scores the winning goal, as long as we win. And to that point, I think what we really need is getting enough leadership out there to put the planet on the same page. What are we going to do together to fix this problem? And there's I don't know. I guess what I would challenge even government to do is, don't assume that the answers that we're thinking about now are the right answers. If you put the right people together, there's better answers out there. We just don't know what they are, because I guarantee it, if you and I sat down and talked for a while, we'd come up with a better solution than some of the other stuff that's going on.
That is definite. Look, let me tell you, and it's not only that, it also the perfect answer is not always an answer that you can work on, that you can work with. In other words, and that is as an environmentalist, and I think you claim yourself an environmentalist as well.
Absolutely, I
But
am.
as an environmentalist, as an engineer, as a progressive, I have certain values. As I assume, given that you're an oil man, I assume that you are a conservative guy. I assume all these things. But we live in the same country. We can have a cup of coffee, we can drink, and we can do all of those things together and figure out, well, what can we do that continues life on Earth in the long run?
Sure,
And it
because if
doesn't
we're all
have to be a
if we're all
straight
dead,
line.
it doesn't matter.
Right. So my thing is, and one of the reasons I like to challenge and talk to people like yourself is that you have the respect in that community. And if having that respect in that community, if you can actually show, well, after speaking to a few progressives, maybe we need to sort of meet, as opposed to us having these, because some of the people, with me talking to somebody like yourself, some of the folks that I deal with would be like, are you crazy? They are the anti this and the anti. And my thing is, no, they're my fellow brother. Okay. And somehow we have to figure out how a leader in your field, leader in what you're doing and your values, can somehow come to a resolution that, look, we know we have a problem. There are also financial areas, there are logical areas, there are work areas, there are all these areas that have to be satisfied at once. How do we do that? And I think by first having the conversation, we can do that. You're sitting on the easiest thing to think is that because you're sitting on an ocean of gas, is that it has to be used. That I'm sitting on an ocean of something, that it has to be used. How do we tell all those landowners in the Crescent area that you don't have to do that, but we're going to have the necessary programs that it's not a burden for you not to have done that? And that is where nonprofits like Crescent and all of that, with the proper modal, in my opinion, can actually start laying the groundwork for the people who trust you.
I think there's a lot of good opportunities to that, because we can't solve a problem if we're shouting at each other.
Right.
And I think what the challenge is, and I think we're starting to see that the coal people are finally starting to figure this stuff out, is it's not always about burning something. Now, the one challenge that I have a real concern with a lot of the Green New Deal folks is they don't seem to grasp that you got to have molecules. And, we can go wind and solar wherever we can use it. And I'm fine. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what I'd like to see. If we're going to do offshore wind, fine. Make the windmills in Cambridge, Ohio, or Charleston, West Virginia, and ship them to the East Coast. Short term, I'd rather make solar panels in my backyard here in Charleston than have them shipped from Beijing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stuff. Now, to make those solar panels, we got to have molecules. And the molecules we have in our country in abundance. So I think that's the difference. But I get for it, because I know I don't want to get this out there before we lose time. Is we're already working on recycling. I've got two companies, one from Israel, that I'm really excited about. And my goal, and our region's goal is to create this circular economy. In other words, instead of, and I love the Israeli, what we call garbage, they call feedstock. And what they're going to do is set up near our landfills. And as these trash trucks come in, they have to separate the glass and the metals. The rest of the stuff, the hot dog wrappers, the waste salad, they can use all that stuff, and they turn that into a pellet that'll make a product. And that's the stuff. When we start turning, instead of burying this stuff in the ground, now what we've got, to your point, we're not using even that natural gas resource. We're not using as much of that, because we're using that trash and we're turning that into a product. And I'm loving what they're doing, because that's the whole concept, is we're creating this circular economy. Instead of plastic, we got to have plastic. We got to have it for face shields and medical equipment, about everything we use. My wife wouldn't be alive without plastics.
Right.
Now we're using them circularly. What an opportunity.
Greg, out of this conversation, this is the type of conversation I think we should have. This is the type of conversation I think we need to have a lot of, expand it a bit more, and then come to a few better points. But as I always ask my guests, what would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Wow, good question. Because I think we've covered a ton of stuff. I think the main thing that I think what I'd like to see is how do we get everybody on that same page? How do we start this? How do we, because when we did a ton of radio last year because of the pandemic, we couldn't go places, but we ended up doing a lot of media. And what I've seen, and matter of fact, to give everybody out there hope, is it didn't matter whether it was red state, blue state, liberal, conservative, urban, rural. Everybody, I had guests call in last year. Everybody that I talked to, no matter where, downtown Chicago, San Francisco, you name it, wants to see manufacturing and jobs come here. And that's something we can build on. And I think that's how we start. And I think even the president wants to see, he gets the idea that if we got to depend on China for ventilators, and if we got to depend on China for our personal protective equipment, that's not good. So we need to be making more of these products here, and we can do it because we have advanced manufacturing, we've got a great labor source, we have feedstock, and we are right here where the big market is and where the people need that stuff. So that's, maybe that's the thought process is how do we begin? And we begin by starting to make what we know we have to make here.
Greg Kozera, it's been my pleasure to have you on Politics Done Right. We must keep the conversation going. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for what I know you're going to do in the future.
Well, appreciate it. Anytime, anything we can do to help, to get you information, to do whatever, because this is all of our country. This is all of our world. And, it's not just about you and I. I got kids, I got grandkids, and I got friends around the world.
Thank you, my friend.
We got to take care of everybody.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Appreciate what you do.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.